Today I'm particularly excited and born because it's just us women. We want to bed. We want to talk about it. No holds barred. It is the women who hold the homes together, hold our marriages together, and we nurture the children. We nurture the marriage, the men, and that's what God has made us. And He has given us that power to be able to put things together. Today we're looking at putting the boys together. How do we make our boys grow into responsible men, fathers, in-laws, brothers? That's what we're looking at today. Stay with us. When we come back after our charm square, we'll be seeing all the beautiful women in the house.
Lẹ́yìn mi èmi àjà ní àjíbọ̀rọ̀ nígbàjà ẹ mọ̀ wípé ọjọ́ orí ń gbé ni níbo ló ṣàwà o torórí ní ń gbé ni yàjá àfòṣàsílẹ̀ o orí a máa gbé nílé ipò ọlá a máa gbé nílé ipò gíga àfẹ̀yìn orí bá ń ṣe àfẹ̀yìn orí bá ń ṣe bóbìnrin súnmọ́ ní káàtà dí mẹ́yìn àfẹ̀yìn orí bá ń ṣe mú ta káwọ́ sí dànù. Orí burúkú òní jẹ́ tèmi nínú ọdún tuntun eléṣì àjíbọ̀rọ̀ nígbàjà ikú ẹ̀rín ẹ mọ̀ wípé orí mi ò wá gbé mi dọ́dọ̀ ìyá rere wá gbé mi dọ́dọ̀ ọmọ rere torí kí n bá lè rálàáfíà kí n lẹ́mìí gígùn torí orí ní gbé ni orí wá fún mi lówó tí mo lè fi tọ́jú ìyá mi wá fún mi nímọ̀ tí mo lè fi tọ́jú ìyá mi pẹ̀lú ọmọ èmi àjà ní àjíbọ̀rọ̀ nígbà.
Welcome back. When we have challenges in marriages, there are basic fundamental problems that we should look at. It starts from the upbringing, the background that the children grow from. We're looking at the male child. How do you bring up your male child to grow into a responsible man?
The male child is the fulcrum of society. I mean, we always say that the women hold the family. That is true. But the headship of the home is a man's responsibility. I mean, the major cause of societal problem today is raising that man that sits at the gate. According to Proverbs 31, that's the man who knows that he is the head, who knows the calling of God upon his life, who knows that he is the one who has been called to sit at the gate and take decisions concerning his family, his children, his future, and the future of his nation. You know, these days we look at our children. The Bible says, train up a child the way he will go. When they grow up, they will never depart from it. And now we take a typical scenario, which I always like to talk about, of a child, a girl child that is 6, and a boy child that is 9, both of them are your children. And they eat on the table and both of them leave the plate and go to play. What do? You beat the girl and say, go and clear the table. Don't you know you're a girl? And we leave the boy to continue to play football. So the boy grows up with a sense of entitlement and without any sense of responsibility because we have not insisted. You know, a girl sits like this and you say, close your leg. Don't you know you're a girl? So every day we reaffirm what it means to be a girl child. Nobody is telling the boy what it means to be a boy child and what the society expects of you as a man tomorrow. Except that, of course, you don't have to clear your table. It's okay to leave your table and go and play football, and then somebody else clears after you. So you grow up with a sense of entitlement. So we end up with men who we as women are always complaining about. If your child never cleared the table, never washed your car, never cleaned the house, how will he begin to look after you, his wife, and know that, oh, when my wife's car doesn't have fuel, it's my responsibility to make sure that she has fuel in her car, that her car is moving, that the bulbs in the house are changed, and all of that. So we have young men who are 20, in their late 20s. We have young women who are in their late 20s. The young women are 10 times older or more mature than the men. They don't find in the men the kind of men that they would actually want to marry, because we haven't raised those men that way. And because society expects us to be married, eventually we marry them and we, just roller coast through life. And so the problem goes from one generation to the other. In a traditional setting, we have age grades. We had from one age grade to the other. The society taught you what you were expected to do at every age grade. And so as the traditional institutions are giving way, we also need to establish these institutions, these structures in our everyday societal life. What do we expect a young man to do? Growing up as a child, I knew to go for catechism, go for confirmation, you become a mass server for guys and all of that. So for every stage of life, the church or the society taught you what was expected of you, told you what was expected of you, taught you how to qualify into those positions and what to expect at the next level, and then you would begin to expect that of yourself. But a lot of, because of movements, families in the cities and all of that, we don't have those stabilities anymore. So we have our young men, nobody expects anything from them. And even parents are not expecting anything from them. They're so busy. And I want to encourage parents, make out time to train a child the way he would go. Okay. You owe it to the child so that when he grows up, he will not depart from it.
Thank you. Do you have anything? I want to take it from somewhere. She's been talking about training the child the way he will grow. The society can bring up the children, the church, and all. But there's something I want to bring up specifically. Like during my days, I read something about child psychology. And I think bringing up a child starts from the cradle. In my studies then, I was made to realize that a child's ability, mental ability, what a child becomes in future as a man, grown-up man or whatever, starts from age 1 to 6. When you meet to mold your child properly at that age 1 to 6, it's like you've lost it. Except God intervenes. Okay? When you have a child that is about 1 year, if you have to be sensitive, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and up to 6 years, whatever you do in the house, the child repeats it after you. Whatever you do in the house, the child hears. Anything you do, they demonstrate it after you. That is to say that is when the learning stage begins. At that early stage. I'll tell you something. When I visited my mother-in-law last year, she gave me one book about these Christian books, Awake. Most times those books are distributed, those magazines, and we just throw them aside. But if you read them particularly, take your time to read those Awake magazines. They tell us a lot of things. And I read one about children, bringing up children in the home. Like my mother-in-law told me. She said, look, sir, my children don't bite me when they are growing up from that stage. Even when I'm breastfeeding, the child cannot make the mistake of biting me. If the child does, I take the hand immediately and bite it back. The child will cry, and later we pamper the child to stop. And he said, look, don't show love to your children at that age. If they do anything that is wrong, smack them and do it immediately so that they will realize that this is what they did and that was your response. so that they know where they went wrong. We do it immediately. That after the child must have grown, maybe probably to the age you are saying now, going to school time, going to church, that time they have grown and they have learned everything they're supposed to learn in life. Then that time you show them love. You come together now, speak to each other, speak with each other, laugh, show them love that time. But from the beginning, don't make the mistake of showing love to the children. Okay. In the African setting, especially where you come from, you're not allowed to beat or send the male child on errand. In that situation, how do you react to it?
Fine. You see, what we have these days is as a result of the foreign culture that has infiltrated into our environment. The effect is so much. If you look at our society, you will see the way the boys behave, even below adolescent, all through to their young adults. They do not respect the parents. They do not have regard for the culture. They do not speak the language of the places they come from. They don't even want to identify with the language. They criticize the language. You know, language is linked with culture. If you don't like the language, if you cannot speak the language, then you will not respect anything that belongs to that culture where the language comes from. So our young boys have seen us, the parents and the older ones, play it out the wrong way. Look at in the family setting, for example, the way our husbands treat us, in most cases, is not fair. It's not straight. They watch the fathers snub the mothers, insult the mothers, and it goes into their brain. They carry it out of the home to go and practice it. They have no respect for the female ones. It's a big challenge. Another aspect is that we, the mothers, we, the female ones, do not really know what the nitty-gritty that we should imbibe in the children that constitute bringing up a male child properly. They don't see their fathers at home. The fathers are not role models to them. And most times the mother keeps running from pillar to post trying to make ends meet. So our boy children are left on their own.
Hello, if you're just joining us, the program is Bond, and we're looking at the issue of raising sons to be responsible men and fathers in the society. You say we have to watch them,
Yes.
see what they do in
Yes,
their rooms.
yes, yes.
But these days, mothers go to work. You're busy out there in the markets, in the kitchen, at work. What time do you have
That
to
is why
watch
I
these
say
children?
we have to go back to the good old days. We have to create time. It is the quality of time, not the length of time you stay with these boys. We have to try to draw them closer to us in conversations. Somehow we'll be able to pick things and we'll talk to them. We'll be friends to them. Luckily, we have one advantage as mothers, that if you notice, the boy child tend to get closer to the mother while the girl child gets closer to the father. So we have that advantage that we can use. But are we mindful of it?
First and foremost, I think that raising a male child, the woman has a role, but it is the responsibility of a man, to mentor their son. The role of a man in raising a male child can never be underestimated. The man must take charge and play the role of a father or a key figure in the boy's life. We never stop desiring to be loved. But the point she has made that when a child does something wrong, we should indicate. I remember what happened when my children were small. They used to play this game. They would put their hand inside my mouth and be poking. So one day, when Chinedu put his hand, I beat him. Initially he was laughing until I kept biting him. Until he started crying and fell on the ground. I opened my mouth. He just brought out his hand limp. And Ijoma felt, it's not me. Put her own and I beat her until she was laughing until it became too painful. That was the last time anybody played that type of game with my mouth. Before they would open my mouth and be, I mean, I just wouldn't. So I decided
I was
that.
actually going to say, why would her mother-in-law give her that same advice? Yes. But you have even practiced it.
Yes, what I'm saying is that the way she's putting it is not really what it means, but what she's saying, which I agree with, is that when a child does something wrong, no matter how young they are, you should respond in a way that they recognize that this is not an acceptable conduct, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't show them love. You will continue to love them.
Show love because we are mothers and it's a child. There's no way that love will not be there. Maybe I didn't bring it out, but it doesn't remove the love you have for your child. Naturally, you show love to your son, or to your child, or to your children, because you are their mother. But like you said, what I meant is just that you react immediately, smack the child immediately, let them know what they have done, so that they don't go back to do it again.
Okay. Another factor that affects the upbringing of our male children is ignorance and lack of education by their mothers, especially in a certain part of the country. When a woman cannot even read ABC, does not look through the child's book, cannot communicate properly with the outside world, there's no how she can raise that child to the standard that he will cope outside.
Yeah, you can't give what you don't have.
Yes.
Sorry, I beg to
disagree with that.
Yeah, because
I disagree.
There are mothers who didn't go to school and who brought their children up to be prim and proper.
See, listen, I know, I understand that aspect. See, what I'm trying to say is that even among the uneducated, there are those who are illiterate in a way that they cannot handle, control, or be in charge of their children.
I think the point here is that parenting is a serious business.
That is it.
And must be taken as such, whether you are literate or not. I don't accept the fact that because you didn't go to school, you cannot raise your children.
That is not exactly what I'm saying.
So there are men and women who have distinguished. A parent, of course, going to school would empower you in more ways than one if you are now raising your child in the period where we are. But in the past, parents have struggled. They understood what it meant to be a parent. And they struggled, and they put their feet down. These days, we see young children ruling their parents. They go out in and out of the house as they like, and nobody is calling them to order. And maybe some of them start to do menial jobs and they bring money home and their parents abdicate their responsibility. That's an abdication of responsibility. I have an auntie who struggled through life with her children, but she put her feet down. Her children would sell water to make ends meet, but they went to school. Everybody was in check.
Hello, if you're just joining us, the program is Bond, and we're looking at the issue of raising sons to be responsible men and fathers in the society. Should we teach our male children to cook? Should we make them sweep and clean the house as well?
Sure. It's for their own good.
Yes, it's a very good thing to do. Because if you teach the child how to handle these things, how to cook, to wash plates, he begins to value the work that the mother does at home, how serious it is, the commitment in it, and how hard sometimes. They look small, but if a woman wakes up in the morning after prayers, she begins to prepare the children for school, she begins to wash plates, she begins to clean the house, you will see her walking throughout the day until evening before she finishes. So if the male child is taught to do all these things, by the time he marries, he will respect his wife.
That takes me back to one family that I used to be together with in Lagos. They are elderly people. In fact, the man is already gone. That woman has 5 children, 5 boys. Okay? And she said, well, she can't enslave herself for their father and for these boys until she dies. No, it's not possible. So this woman in question made timetable for the boys, for the 5 boys. who cooks on Monday, who cooks on Tuesday, Friday, and what I'm saying is that they came up being good boys, better boys, especially in that aspect of cooking. And when they finally finished their education, went for youth service, it was like something they gained from their mother. They could make their food and stuff, and not depending on the NYSC crafts that was given to them in
The program is Bond, and we're talking on something peculiar to you and to me, something that we must practice. We're talking about bringing up your children, especially your male child, to be a responsible man in the society, a responsible leader, a father, and a good husband. We're particular about good husbands on Bond. Stay with us, we'll go on a break, and when we come back, we will round up the program for today. Welcome back. The program is still Bond. Please, can we say one last word so we can round up on this?
I feel that the boy child and then the adolescent boy and the young adult all should be advised according to their ages. We should not just lump everything and think that we have full control of them because they are our children. Over the years, as a result of my experience with children, I've come to discover that there are certain things you tell the boy child at certain age and he will comply with, it will enter his mind and he will not forget again. And if you respect them and you show them that you have confidence in them, most of them want to live up to it.
Well, I think that the male child is the game changer in the life of our society. So raising the child to recognize his role as the head, to honor that role, to aspire to live out that role as a service to God is very important. And that is the child that will be at the city gates, the place of power and decision, the place of security, the place of leadership. So at every point in time, from when the male child is born till he becomes an adult, we must not lose sight of his role, his God-ordained, God-given role.
At this point, I like to encourage families to stay together, especially when you have a son, a male child in the family, because it's easier when the father and the mother are together to bring up this child, this particular child together, and for the father to be there to put his faith down on what he wants and the morals he has from his own parents. He can imbibe them on the son, tailor him very well, show him where to go, and always pray for him. Think with that.
Thank you. On that note, let's wrap it up at this point. But before we go, you stay and listen to wise counsel.
Every day in the mirror I see a woman, and every time I look at mama I see that woman, a wonderful woman, an African woman, mother of nature, beautiful woman, beautiful woman.
The subject of sex and family has become a taboo, and unfortunately, fortunately, sex is a part of life. And therefore, we must demystify it. Otherwise, we expose our children to things that are just out there that are total abuses. Now, when do you begin to let your child know about sex? When does sex education begin? I believe that from when a child is little, you begin to let the child know about his sexuality. You know, you let the child know about the sacredness of his body, you know, the areas of the body that should not be touched, the areas of the body that are sacred to God and to the parents, because the parents are custodians of the child. And then you let the child know that if they are touched inappropriately, you know, in those parts of their bodies, they should report it. You know, because we've had situations where children have been molested. And it's the responsibility of parents to let their children know, because their bodies are sacred. Sex education is not a one-time thing. You know, as children grow up, as they go into, as they get from one age or one stage of development onto the other, then the way that the parents should bring the subject onto the children should be different. You know, as a child grows on, they should let the child know. As he grows into adolescence, they should begin to let the child know why the child feels very aware of his body, you know, and let the child know why the child feels sexually aroused. Sometimes things like this make parents to feel embarrassed. But the truth is, if you don't take the gauntlet, if you don't utilize the time, if you don't teach your children something, some people out there are going to tell them things they should not hear. Now, it is so important that parents teach their children. It's so important that the subject of sex be brought to the open so children can constantly come to the parents. You know, this is very important, and parents really should take it as a matter of, as a serious thing and not something they are ashamed of.
Welcome back. I hope you learned one or two things from the interview today and the wise counselor that we had in the house. We've talked about men or male children growing into being responsible husbands and fathers. And the male child is seen to be a destiny changer or a game changer, they said. If you bring up a child the proper way, when he grows, he will not depart from it. So in your home today, we implore you to bring up your children properly, irrespective of sex. Maybe more particular about the male children. See you same time next week on Bond.